That was a very famous family. My mother-in-law was Margaret Atwood.
If you want to tell me what pushed you that direction, what first into stripping and then
Burlesque.
Obviously, you just explained why you've got reached out by to make a gig and create a project.
It was wild.
Project, but
well, I was headlining for the Spiegel tent shows and all of those things, which were really neat. But how I started stripping, I've always seen it like, and I'll talk in this language about trauma because that's what we understand today. Trauma victims are always trying to be victorious over their abusers, right? And so they rewrite the story. When you hear about women who've been abused going back to the abuser or going to another abusive situation or going to a risky situation, putting themselves at risk, it's not because they love the drama and the abuse. That's the easy thing to say, well, she'll just go back to, that's the easy way to dismiss it. The reason why women do that, men too, is because we are trying to win. We are trying to rewrite the end of that story. In my mind, stripping, when I was 19, I was on a date. And the guy said for dessert, he said, do you want to go somewhere else for dessert? I said, yeah, I want to go to the Zanzibar on Yonge Street. He said, why? I said, well, because I want to see what strippers do. He said, why would you want to do that? I said, because I'm thinking of applying. So he reluctantly took me to the Zanzibar. And I got a girl to dance for him. I wanted to see what this girl did. And I thought, well, that's easy. Like, I could do that. So I talked to the manager and I started the next week. I came to see every single table dance that I ever did. Stage shows were easy. I'd been performing since I was a kid. Getting naked was not necessarily easy the first few times. That was a little scary. But it was performing. I could pretend to be somebody else, right? But every single table dance that I did, in my mind, was hanging the proverbial carrot in front of my potential abuser and taking it away whenever I wanted. That's how I think I overcame all of my stuff, because I rewrote the end of every single table dance story I had. Do you understand? Yeah. Like, I was in control. I could say no. I could put a stop to it anytime I wanted. And it became an amazing game. And then a persona. And then I would do all kinds of acting things. I could work out a lot of issues with these guys. I became a chameleon of sorts. So let's say if I was go-go dancing in New Jersey and New York, I would suddenly be French, because, of course, when you are French and you are in the United States, they think you are so sexy. And that is how I would make more money. I was the French girl coming in to make my... It's crazy. I was just doing acting exercises. Yeah. Or one time, of course, I would tell them I'm from London, right? So I would work on my accent, you see. As a voiceover artist, it was a really good thing to do, right? Any game I could play, why not? I mean, I could reinvent myself every single night. I did that for 10 years. Wow. Loved every minute of it. Why would you not? You have a bunch of people telling you you're beautiful and throwing money at you every night. It's kind of hard to give up. So I never drank. I never did drugs. I never sold myself. And I somehow got through 10 years of some of the most cocaine years of the stripping industry, intact, alive, and fine. Luck, partially, a lot, and smart. Yeah.
Was there... You said you've been in control. And it seems like you had the whole thing planned out and you knew you had the control over it all the time. Was there
Did I have it? Oh.
Yes. Was there ever a moment that you lost control?
Well, either I have phenomenal angels or I'm just dumb. Not really.
Wow.
I knew that I was going to be a stripper from the time I was about 14.
Really?
Yeah. It was like the most obvious thing somebody like me would do. I was loud. I was very, what's the word?
Obnoxious?
No, I was
No?
never obnoxious. No. I was just loud. I was brassy. I was dramatic. I was,
Speaking your truth all the time?
Yeah. Yeah, I was the real, I was the person that was really all that honest all the time, as much as I could be. And so stripping seemed like, well, you could travel, see the world, which I did. You could make a lot of money, which I love. And I could fund all of the personal projects that I wanted to do. That's how I paid for my first record.
Wow.
I mean, that's how I paid for my first video that I ever shot. So I had a lot of freedom. At 19, I was making a lot of money, cash, and doing some great things with it for my art. I didn't, yes, I was put in some situations that were really risky, but here's the people's ideas of strippers, especially back then, were that we were a bunch of drug addicts that were desperate and we were constantly being victimized. There was some guy who was waiting at the end of our shift to take all our money and give us bruises. And, it really wasn't like that. We were in charge most of the time. Yes, there were certain places that I worked where the mob owned the bar and you didn't want to mess with them. Or one place I worked, they were paying the girls in cocaine. And when I said no, they thought I was a undercover cop. I wish I was kidding, but that's true. I was working in places in New Jersey where you do one different bar every single night. And I worked in a bar once where there were so many bikers, and I'd never seen a biker in my life. And all of a sudden there's like 60 of them in the bar, and there's nowhere to go. We're on a highway. My girlfriend and I are on a highway where like you couldn't even hitchhike your way out of there because there was no cars. So we were stuck with bikers. And she's a London, England schooled with the Royals girl who, and I'm me, and we're out in the middle of nowhere. And we've been asked to sit with them in between our shows. So if we say no, oh my God, they're going to rape and kill us. But if we say yes, they're going to rape and kill us. We didn't know what we were going to do, right?
Yeah.
So we sat down with the guy that was, I guess, the leader of the pack or whatever they're called. I'm sure there's a name for them. And he turned out to be a university-educated, interesting guy who gave us a ride to our hotel at the end of the shift with his pack of motorcycles following us, and shook our hand at the door and said, if you ever need anything while you're in town, please give me a call. I'd be happy to serve. Okay. I once danced for a guy who must have been 6'9" easily, a very large 400-pound black man with gold teeth. And I was table dancing for him. And he had those chains with these big medallions on them, and I just thought, why are you trying so hard? Like I looked at him and I thought, here's a really good looking guy, and to like, if he ever had a come to Jesus moment, would have to have a serious amount of dental work to undo his choices in life. I mean, you could sell the gold, but man, that stuff in his mouth has got to go. So, and I was looking at him kind of like that, and he was asking me to go out with him or something. And I said, of course I'm not going to go out with you. Why would I go out with you? I said, you lead a life of crime. Why would I want to be in? So he flashes me that he has a gun on him. This is in Toronto, and this was in like probably the late 80s, early 90s. And he flashes this giant gun as if I'm supposed to go, oh gosh. And all I did was laugh. I couldn't stop myself. I started laughing. And he said, what's so funny? And I said, you are. I said, you're just this really great guy. What are you doing? Like, I talked my way out of that because I was looking right through him at the person that was in there. I mean, I was lucky maybe at that moment. What was he going to do? Shoot me in front of everybody? Yeah. I don't think so. So, lots of risky situations, but somehow I always kind of got by, you know?
It sounds like you've got the guardian angel, that's for sure.
On every shoulder.
Oh yeah,
everywhere. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's some
It was
heavy,
fun, though. It
heavy
was
challenges.
fun.
Oh yeah.
It was. It was an adrenaline rush every night.
I believe. Like, I wanted to ask, what does maverick mean to you personally? I have a picture already, but yeah, if you can answer that.
I think a maverick can be a lot of different types, but it's definitely somebody that does things their own way, no matter what. I mean, mavericks, you think about those Western guys, right? Walking through town. Like, that's the image that comes to mind. But if you think about who they were, whether they were outlaws and I'm sure they were outlaws for good reasons too. They weren't always a life of crime. But it's an outlaw type of mentality. Yeah. It's like, okay, so now you've given me this picture and I have to operate within this square. Yeah, but what's just outside the right corner square? Like, you've got to look at all your options, right? Yeah. And I think, I mean, my family certainly had a lot to do with that. My influences that I grew up with all of my brothers and sisters, I never for a moment actually thought about the color of their skin. I'm sure they thought about their color of their skin because they have to. Mm-hmm. I didn't. I just thought that was kind of cool. And then I grew up and realized, damn, their reality was totally different than mine. But watching them do things their way too influenced me. Mm-hmm. I didn't have to know the source of why they were so different. And why, by the way, I'm speaking of kindness, why they were so damn kind. These are people that would give you anything if you needed it. So those were my examples, right? I didn't know the source. I just knew that's what the right thing to do was. And so I think if you have the audacity to be loud about who you are, and you continue and you have some kind of success, whether it be a family like that encourages you to be you, a producer that loves your work and says, hey, can you do, you'll continue to be a maverick all your life.
That's right.
It's not easy. It's like there are days when I wake up and I think, I really wish I could be a bricklayer and be really happy with the meditative process of just putting one brick on top of the other. Monotony perhaps, but meditative peace, I'm sure, on other days. I don't have that. I have a restlessness in me that will always be there. I live with a partner who's like that too. We are both so outside the box. It's kind of scary. And we're getting tired as we get older, more and more. We have less energy to do it. But damn it, we're not going to go down easy, ever. I would be failing my very character if I did that. And as a woman, I think it's just easier now to be different. When I first started, I had a lot of limitations.
I believe. I
was stripping in what was once called the French Maid, which is at the corner of Simcoe and Queen here in Toronto. It's now a giant building. I don't even know what it is. And across the street from that was a bank. It might even still be there, that bank. I don't know. And I crossed the street on my lunch break while working, and I walked in at 21 and I said, I need a loan because I need to start building my credit rating. I don't need the money. I just want to pay it back so I can get a good credit rating. And the banking manager said, where do you work? And I said, across the street. And he said, are you a waitress? I said, no, I'm a stripper. And he laughed at me. And he said, in not so many words, well, people like you are very risky for people like us. And I said, in what way? And I was asking him, and he had no good answer for me. And I finally said, he said something like, how would you like to work off your loan? So I wrote a letter to the CEO of the bank. And I said, Never guess what happened. I got my loan, unsecured. He got demoted. By the way, his name was Mr. Rogers. I'll never forget that. And every time I went into the bank, he was no longer head manager. He was a teller at one point, so I knew he got demoted. And he hated my guts.
Of course.
But I made sure that every time I had to make a payment, I would cross the street and I would do it in cash, and I would make sure he did it for me. Wow. Right? I don't know. It paid off.
Definitely. This is a character, that's for sure.
Well, I am writing a TV series right now, to be
right.
honest with you.
Wow.
Yeah, about a character very similar to this.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely wanna watch it when it's ready. I think a lot of women need that strength and finding either it would be a support within themselves or close people around them, or like I said on the beginning, themselves, to go out there and bring it up to that person's face straight away, because there's no other way around it, unfortunately, this word. And we as men, we are assholes just being born. So I think
I don't agree with that.
No?
No.
Maybe I was. Okay.
You know what? Maybe it was just you.
Maybe just me.
I doubt that. And I doubt that what your statement was true. I doubt that. I know men. I'd like to think I know men. After spending many years talking to them in bars while wearing very little. It's amazing what people confess to you. I love men. I didn't leave that profession. A lot of people say, God, you must hate men now. Why would I hate men? First of all, they've made a lot of money for me. And secondly, they're half of the human race. Why would I be stupid to discount half of the human race? Much like they discount women as half of the human race. I think men are in need of reinventing themselves right now. Guidance. And I think women are in need of having to let go of that old narrative of men are assholes and men have made a lot of mistakes. If women were in charge, would we have wars? Would we have strife? Would we have murders? I'd like to think less, but certainly we would have them. Because to be a good leader, you don't have to do it the way it was done before. Always. I think both sexes, and there are only two sexes, and don't get me started on that. No matter what your colors, I don't care. I really don't. You want to be a man that's 6'4", wearing 5-inch heels and great makeup? I'm with you. I don't care. Or do you share my values? Do you share my beliefs in the world? Are you a fellow kind person? Period. End of story. I'll leave it at that. But yes, between the two sexes, we have to have a much better dialogue here. It started with those 1980s shows, Married with Children, I think is what it was called, where she would put her husband down. In fact, it probably started even before that with Archie Bunker. Do you remember that show, All in the Family, in the 1960s and 70s? Archie Bunker and his wife. When she talked like this, Archie! She had this voice that was just like it could peel paint. And my family actually did not let us watch those television shows. I didn't understand the psychology back then, but I understand it now, where the woman is always, picked on by her husband, and the husband is always an idiot, and we've seen themes like that throughout the years. I'm really tired of that. I'm sure you're tired of it. You're a guy. I'm tired of it. You don't get anywhere by stepping on somebody. You just don't.
No.
So I don't believe that men are assholes. I believe that they are in need of some new guidance. I think that there must be some kind of new way of looking at things that we've not come up with as a palatable way of helping this cause out. Men are no longer needed in many ways for the things that they were needed before.
That's true.
At least in this country. Let's face it, we're very fortunate to be here. I don't need my guy to buy a house.
That's right.
I don't need him to feed me. I don't need him to write checks for me. My mother did. Mm-hmm. My mother had to have my father write checks for her. I mean, she couldn't get a credit card until 1972. What? Right? So, and I was 7 by then. I was already on the planet. So my daughter now looks at this stuff and laughs. She thinks that stuff is funny. It wasn't funny, I'm sure, but here we are. But that doesn't mean that you have to start having every conversation about a man starting with he's an asshole.
True. It was on the funny, on a funny way. I think.
It's very funny, but it's funny because it's in our culture now.
Yeah. It is super problematic for men as well. Like being a man myself, I know how much ingrained programming I have of even having teary eyes, not even saying being emotional about things, and it is in my nature, and it's only up to me to let it go and let it outside of myself and show it to the world. And we are born and raised from the get-go that we cannot do that. This is not our role. We supposed to be the stone of the family, the rock that never shakes, and there's no emotion, whether it's a punch in the face, whether it is a death in the family, that's gonna shake us, right?
Every emotion in a man's dictionary of emotions is anger. I mean, I find it funny when men say women are emotional.
Oh yeah.
Well, I don't know, look at you, like I didn't put a hole through the wall when I was angry, you know. So I understand what you're saying. Yeah, you're relegated to one. One is acceptable, and that's anger. Mm-hmm. That's the one emotion that's acceptable in a man.
The funny thing is, I am grateful to my wife for teaching me a lot of those things. Even in my native language, I didn't know more than probably 5 emotions altogether. And now we have a wheel of emotions on our fridge when I'm
that's amazing.
I'm trying to understand what I'm going through, and it very often when we are fighting, and it's completely natural when we fight with Kat, is my wife that I need to stop myself and say, okay, I need a break. I don't know what I'm feeling. I'm feeling something, and it's really angry that something, but it is not the anger. I don't know yet what I'm feeling. Give me a moment to process it. And I find that a lot of men do not even give themselves a moment to kind of figure out, like, we don't know more than 5 emotions.
I know.
And it's huge, it's eye-opening, and there is so much work to be done.
There is a lot of work to be done. I also, on the flip side of that, don't believe that women should be expecting their men in their lives to be their best friends. Sorry to say that, but I have male friends, but I don't share things with them that I do my girlfriends. I'm very lucky. I've got some great girlfriends. But I think there's an expectation that the men in our lives are supposed to be our best friends. Some people are lucky, they do have that. But that's a lot of expectation to put on a guy or a woman. I think that you're supposed to be.
Emotions.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's like, oh, the same 5 shows, right? It's like, today we're going to have disappointment, you know? Like it's just it's a weird thing to and it was worse during COVID because you were stuck with your partner all the time. You didn't have your face-to-face with your girlfriends and your besties and your, the guys weren't going out and shooting the breeze or whatever it is they do. I don't know. I'm not particularly invested in what men do when they're away from women, but I am invested in how they relate to women and allow them their freedom in this world. Personal freedom, professional freedom, financial freedom, all that stuff. Okay. And you're right, we do need some sort of retraining, I suppose, but it has to be something that all men understand. It has to be something, I don't know. I honestly don't know what it would be. The things that we're doing now, like I think what you mentioned, that wheel is really interesting because it's a fallacy to think that only men don't know what emotion they're thinking. We've been allowed to explore our feelings, but I don't always know what I'm feeling either in the moment.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean? So we have these
many
camps, right? I think the assumptions that we make about each other, male, female, somebody from, Sarajevo and me or whatever, they're only assumptions. And they're so inaccurate half the time.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Half the time, I'm sure they're ridiculous.
Because we are judging other people based on what we are feeling at the moment, what we are thinking at the moment, not what they are going through and what they are feeling.
Yeah. Somebody said to me once, how did you learn all the stuff that you learned when you were stripping? Basically, was the question. And I said, well, I met this mailman once. I was dancing for him. He was a mailman. He came in every day. He had a beer. He had a dance, and he left. And I came up to him, having just danced for somebody else, and I was frustrated. And I said, oh, I hate these guys that always ask me these stupid questions. Jezebel, is that your real name? Jezebel, do you have somebody at home who beats you up and takes your money? It's like, and he goes, look around you. He goes, you're in a library right now. These people have knowledge that you don't have. Ask them questions. Wow. He said, be interested, not interesting. Wow, what a perspective shift, right? And then all of a sudden, I started asking them questions, and I began to understand a lot more about, but I would also put the onus on them to talk instead of asking me questions, which were one-dimensional and very ridiculous. The assumptions that they made about me were insulting, actually.
Oh, yes, for sure.
But the assumptions I was making about them were just as insulting, too. So it was an interesting shift, and that's when I realized, ask questions.
Yep. It's about the conversation and communication, right? So what you said, just being interested in other person, right? Not just looking interesting, right?
It's a lot of work to be interesting. As a performer, I can tell you, it's a lot of work. Yeah.
For sure. Going through so many different things in your life and having such a colorful career, what does success mean to you?
Ha ha ha. I love that question because I'm quintessentially the working actor who has not made it. I used to like saying about my singing because I have 3 albums out and a couple of projects in between here and there, but I never made it. So I almost did, but I didn't make it. So I used to tell people as a joke, I am the almost made it has-been. So it's like, I almost made it and now I don't even bother. So I'm a has-been, right? It's a funny way of saying that I'm poking fun at myself, but I'm actually not disappointed in the way that I went about it. The only thing that I'm disappointed in is that I don't get to sing anymore. That I really miss that.
Why is that?
As it's my most loved art.
Yeah, but why is it that
because I came out just at a time where the record labels were losing power. The indie was coming back. Okay. I did indie, and then I got signed by a label. Like literally as this was happening, I came out with a jazz album just as the only jazz station in Toronto was closing and it was moving to country music. Yeah. And then somebody offered me a record deal to do retro western swing, which I love. And then that station closed and they couldn't carry it. And it was just like, I got, signed with this person as shelved for a year where I was just part of the roster as numbers, not as active. Yeah. I wasn't allowed to perform. I wasn't allowed to do any decisions. It's a racket, the whole industry. And now we have these self-starters, these self-creators and stuff. And the technology often eludes me. But I also never developed a lot of my songwriting itself. I am a good mimic. I am a good I do standards and stuff. I do stuff that's already been written. And there's not a lot of appetite for that.
Yeah.
And music has changed. And performing has changed. And worst of all, I don't want to sit in a bar for 4 hours and make $100.
Yeah.
I gave up singing officially when all of that stuff happened, and all of my albums were not the albums that I wanted to make because producers made it without my decision making. Again, the girl singer. I was singing I had Wednesdays at the Reservoir Lounge here in Toronto on Wellington with my band. And I just remember the place was very, very dark, and there were a lot of spotlights in our eyes, so you could rarely ever see past the first stage of people. And I just remember people's phones lighting up their faces. So I would see them in the back, and all these people's phones were on. And I thought, why am I standing here and you're on your phone? I'm here singing for you, and you're on your phone. And it broke my heart. You know, this is the one thing that I do. Acting is like, I do. It's so rare I ever do a role that I love. I just do the roles they give me because I'm a working actor. I do voiceovers, same thing. I'm a Gumby in there. I do anything. What voice do you want, right? Singing is from my soul, and I couldn't find a venue to do that, and no one listens anymore. True. So I have been known to break into song in the middle of a restaurant or, at a party or something, and people love it in those moments, and it has to be genuine. Yeah. But I don't do it anymore. So it's really sad.
Is it more passion for yourself right now? Does it transform that way, or did you close that chapter completely?
I closed it, and I'm like getting all because I sometimes wake up and I'm in tears in my dreams because I'm not singing. But I think it's maybe it'll come around again as I get older. Things change. I don't know. Maybe I don't have the right venue. Maybe I don't know. I know that when I open my mouth to sing, almost every time I remember the Frank and Alice, and I just sing for whatever comes through me. It literally just passes my body. I don't know if I'm making any sense.
You do.
I absolutely love it, and I have nowhere to go with it right now. It's okay.
Sometimes you don't need to go anywhere and just create the place that you need.
Maybe we'll see. I'm not done yet. It comes and goes. I'm writing again, and I'm doing my jobs, as it were. I'm content that way. But the cherry on top would be singing again. That would be great.
So that would be a definition of success, just singing it again.
Yeah. Okay. But success as a human, I don't know. I succeeded in not dying because, you talk about the risk, and I just literally tripped right through every nightmare scenario, right? I was never raped on the job. I was never attacked on the job. I was never robbed. I was never, I don't have any bad stories.
Yeah. Wow.
Sorry. I have disappointing stories in my personal life from people that surprised me.
Yeah.
But I didn't allow that to be what defined me. In fact, if anything, in the middle of it, sad to say, in the middle of my daughter's upbringing, because I was in this fight with her father, and I went from owning my own house in Cabbagetown to living in a basement apartment with her within like a year and a half, and struggling, like literally finding change to get food. Like it was that bad at times. And I thought at one point I was going to give over to hate, mostly because I watched how it affected my daughter. I've already been hungry. I'll go and sing in the street if I have to eat. I'm not beyond that. I'd love that. The life of a gypsy? Are you kidding? I'd love to go back to that. But I had a child.
Yeah.
And she needed a home, and she needed food, and she needed, So typical me, I didn't go to that hate place with him. I went to real estate school, got my license, and for 8 years I sold houses, and I sent my kid to private school because I went from the single mom who was counting change to screw this kid is not going to be a single mom syndrome mentality.
Yep.
I sent her to a private school, right? That's my response. I just went the other way. But I never hated, because that would have been easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those dark emotions come really easy.
Yeah, and they feed on them. They feed. I believe there's a psychic connection with certain people. Most everybody you meet, I think you can have a psychic connection with. I know that sounds really woo-woo, but I do believe in that. People stay with you sometimes forever, and you only met them for 60 seconds, Sure. That, like, there's a connection. And with her father, there's a connection there. I still haven't figured it out 100%. I still don't know why we ended up together. There were so many red flags. Maybe it was just to bring my daughter in. I don't know. But to hate him would be playing his game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody loses then. Everybody loses. Mostly my daughter.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work and a lot of courage to be a kind person and to be loving and not give away yourself to hate and hatred and those dark emotions. Going a little bit deeper on that and overcoming all of that, what is your failure story?
My failure. Wow, I hadn't thought about that one. I think skip that one right over. I think in the early part of my life, I failed myself. Nobody failed me. I failed me. In a few moments where I really went for marrying my child's father when I knew it was going to be a mistake. Like in my bones, I knew it was going to be a mistake. I look back on it, and my record, my third album had come through. I was recording an album, getting ready to tour. My best friend was dying of AIDS, and I had been looking after him. And I had just moved into this really cool loft that I bought, and everything was happening all at once. And this person walked into my life, as they do. These types of people look for opportunities with people at vulnerable spots, right? I know this now. I didn't know that then. But I didn't trust my instincts, and I was 34. So you would think that I would have learned by then. I had, left a marriage a year and a half prior, but I still was trying to be the responsible person, the artist who marries a business guy to be secure, and all along I'm going through all of these stages, planning a wedding with him. I mean, what was I didn't even want to get married. I didn't even want to get married the 2 times I was married. I didn't feel like marriage was for me. And what an outrageous thing to say. I had been proposed to by over a dozen men in my life. Many of them millionaires. If I wanted to be a millionaire, I could have married. I had lots of, and I'm marrying this guy that I don't even have feelings for, but because he's in business And because he showed me some kindness when I was taking care of my friend and I was overrun with the album wasn't going so well. And I thought, oh, I owed it to him to give him a chance. What was I thinking? Yeah. So I failed myself, right? He's not to blame for that. Nobody's to blame for that. I'm to blame for that, in as much as I can be. Because now I have a daughter.
Yeah.
So what do you say? Was that a failure? I actually think she's the best thing I ever did. So I don't know. I don't know that I have a personal failure story other than not listening to my gut, which I now listen to before I'll listen to reason.
A lot of people, including me, it's if you don't listen to what your gut is telling you, it's gonna pay. You're gonna pay, and you're gonna pay heavy for it.
I sure did. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But that's okay.
It is.
Because you can't go back, right? And I think loving yourself is a very big lesson, and it's probably the most difficult to do.
Yeah.
But that's where the answers are. Yeah. I would love to write another book entirely on all of the stories I heard from men in these bars, because some of them were absolutely heartbreaking. But it always came down to this one thing, in that they did not love themselves. It really was. Yeah. Almost anything I can think about. A man whose wife left him for another woman, and he'd found her in bed with this woman and then ran out of the house and ended up in a strip bar. And he wanted me to dance for him and reclaim his manhood in one table dance. I mean, poor man. But he didn't love himself. He told me he gave me everything to this woman, everything. And she betrayed him and blah, blah, blah. Well, and he wasn't honoring himself. He knew it from the moment that he was with her that it was never going to work out. So, I mean, every story has that kind of theme to it, right? Love yourself first. Honor thyself. Isn't that in the Bible? Okay. I'm not a Bible lady, but it's got to be in the Bible.
Yeah. There's a lot coming through that, honoring and loving yourself, and it's super tough if you've never been there.
Yeah.
But then you go through life in more, I would say, I don't know if you can say it knowledgeable, but a wise way, because you are listening to what your body, what your experience is, whatever is talking to you at that moment, the angel on your shoulder is telling you this is not the way, and you're gonna see that if you don't listen to me, you're gonna see that I was right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us need to go to the moment where we realize, first of all, that there is another thing talking to us beside our brain. Where is the gut, or whatever you might call it, right? A lot of people will say God or universe or whatever it might be for them. But and then going to the moment where you realize, okay, which one do I listen to? And then trying to decide that, I'm going to listen to the smarter one, which is my gut. Oh, that's a journey in itself.
I'm totally into this new science stuff about the gut being the actual brain. I don't know if you're into any of that stuff, but apparently, I'm not please forgive my lack of science jargon, but apparently our guts are just as loaded with hormones and pheromones and reactions and acid balances and whatever to the people that we meet and the experiences that we go through more than our brain. Yeah. So when someone says I have a gut feeling, what I'm actually talking about is this new thing that we're talking about with the, what's your whole chakra region telling you about this person or the situation. And that's new to our population.
It is.
The more science they have behind it, though, the more it fascinates the hell out of me, because if you talk about gut imbalances and disease today and all of that stuff, we're so out of touch with our own bodies.
Oh, yeah.
But I believe it starts with making bad decisions. And that's what disease comes from, is making bad decisions. We're not listening to our own gut for our own health and sanity, right? And I believe that that whole thing that I went through with Lena's father was in fact the thing that made me quite ill. I had many, I still do. I'm still going through chronic illness, which I believe was exacerbated, ironically, by the vaccines, which threw me for a loop. But I think it was from years of living in stress and having all that cortisol being pumped into my body. And I mean, I'm talking years, like even before him, you know,
I think
with all the
is the perfect person who talks about that.
Oh, he's amazing. That man is amazing. I don't know if you also, like, to go off on a total tangent here. He posted something recently where he was taking this excursion of people to Peru for an ayahuasca ceremony.
Oh, really?
And he posted this thing on his social media. I've seen a lot of his stuff. I'd never seen him look so vulnerable. What happened was he got down there with this group of people who had been paying to have this experience with him. And he got there and he realized that this ayahuasca ceremony was actually, the whole process of getting there was actually for him. And he had this epiphany while he was there. And said, imagine my surprise, where I think I'm leading all of these people into this experience, but really, I'm here for me, and I've just had the most eye-opening experience of my life. He was in tears. And it made me go, oh my God, flights to Peru. Like, I just thought, holy, I got to do this. And it's one thing, it's on my bucket list. I definitely want to do this. It's on my bucket list. But he does talk about all of that stuff. The intelligence of the gut, the intelligence of our stomach, quite literally.
And the body storing and keeping the count.
Yeah. Where's yours? Mine lives right here. I mean, chronic issues like crazy that I'm just working out now, which I'm doing craniosacral. I don't know if you know about craniosacral. Manipulation of the plates in the head, and very gentle. I've done Bowen as well, which is like a reprogramming of the body. It's very interesting. Also, again, really light touch. I like any form of massage. I'm a crazy massage person. I love it. And I once, after I got hit by a car about 7 years ago, here's a story for you. It's in the book. Speaking about gut and where it leads you, I was riding my scooter, electric bike, and I was going to the courtroom to file yet another response, because my ex kept me in court papers for many years, and I got really good at paperwork, but I had to file a response. Whenever somebody litigates you, you have to respond. So that was his game. And I was coming back from the courtroom, having done this yet again, and I was so angry. I was so angry that my time was being wasted, days and days and days to prepare this stuff, thousands and thousands of dollars to lawyers that I should never have had to pay, but I did. All my life savings were gone. I was furious. And I'm driving through Yonge and Dundas, center of the universe for Toronto. And this guy has his signal on and he's turning right just past Yonge. And so I think I'm going to scoot over and just pass him, because there's a lot of pedestrians and stuff. So I look at him in his rear view mirror. He looks right back at me. I know he's made contact with me. I signal. It's an audible signal. I have a helmet. This is an orange bike. You can't miss me. And I start to pass him, and he literally floors the gas, cranks the wheel, and smashes right into me.
Wow.
And I go flying over his car, and my head lands in his front tire. Like, out of the blue. dozens of people swarm his car because it looks like he's done this on purpose. It really does. Like, it really looked like the guy had it in for me. Suddenly he wanted to kill me. Swarming his car, they stopped him. He didn't even get out of the car. They called an ambulance. I got taken into the hospital. They put me on a brace, on a body board, the whole thing. And then I waited for almost 2 hours in a body brace for a doctor to come and see me. Kid you not. So I thought, screw this, man. I took off the body brace and I start doing yoga to see if I'm broken, because I know I'm not really broken. I know I've not broken anything, but my C4 and C3 and 4 are screwed. I know that. Doctor comes in, what the hell are you doing? I said, oh, I'm checking myself out because nobody else was around, you know. Repercussions from that for years. But here's the thing. When I was thinking about him in that moment of pure hatred, I got hit by a car. And as I'm flying through the air, I'm thinking about him to blame for this. Now, how deep did this guy get into my head in order to allow myself to think about him while I'm flying through the air ready to meet the pavement? If he was on a campaign to destroy me, I'd say he succeeded. So from that moment, I kind of went, I got to change my brain. Right. Gut feeling. I knew from the moment I got on that bike that I needed to ditch that anger. And I didn't. I was swimming in it. And I know it happened because that's what I attracted. Right to me. Same thing I was giving out. So I'd love to know more about the science stuff because I know that if we were listening to it more and more like this stuff would be avoidable. We'd be talking about it and we'd be able to see it on a science level. Yeah. You know?
So I am curious and fascinated right now. What did you do? What were your first steps, following steps? What did you went through to change your mind, as you said?
First thing I did was I stopped the drugs that the doctors said I could take for painkillers. Because if you numb me, how can I figure out how to fix something? I was never a pill popper anyway. I mean, sometimes I go for drugs if I'm in too much agony, but I don't like to take medication every day. And I was given Percocet. I mean, I'd be addicted by now if I'd taken it. Yeah. So I didn't do that. I listened to my doctor for about 6 months, who told me, don't go to the gym, don't do yoga, don't, just take it easy and rest. Well, what does that mean? Yeah. I mean, I've got a kid that I got to look after. I've got to make money. I've got to, I've got stuff to do. What does it mean, take it easy? I've never taken it easy in my life. Tell somebody to take it easy like me, and that would create more problems than any accident would. Yep. So for the first 6 months, I listened to her. And then I started taking the Percocet because I was bored out of my mind. And then I started taking the Percocet with wine. And then I was like, every night I was taking it. So I thought, no, this is ridiculous. Like, I can't, full stop. And then I began to meditate. That's the first thing I did. And then I began to do yoga again. And every single class that I did, I walked away feeling like I had been through the accident all over again. My body was screaming at me. And finally, I literally went right through the pain. I knew that it was not a bad pain. I knew I wasn't damaging my cervical spine. I knew that. But I also, when I tell you excruciating pain, I mean like blinding migraines. And like I had to lie down and I had to, and I did that for about 6 months. But by the end of that year after the accident, I had literally worked through the pain. And by then, what happened then was I picked up the weights again. And I started working out. So I did everything that I was told not to do by the medical community. I tried their way for a while. Yeah. I got that prescription filled. And then I tried it my way.
Yeah.
So, and the meditation was, I remember this gentleman talking on that movie, The Secret, where he had a plane accident. He literally went down with a plane, and he woke up in the hospital in a coma. But he started to move his toe. He willed his mind to move his toe. And then from his toe to his foot, and his foot to his knee, and his knee. And he walked out of the hospital 2 months later. So I thought, okay, well, I could do that too. So mine was minor, for God's sake, compared to what he did. So that's what I did. I just kind of imagined myself through it.
Yeah.
That's all I could do, because that's all I had, right? Belief. What did I do? I had belief.
It is so powerful to direct your thoughts and will your mind towards things that you want to get or achieve or
yes,
even fix, right?
Yes. I also do something called new moon wishes.
Okay.
You want to get really woo-woo? New moon wishes are the woman named Jane Spiller. She's dead now. She started a concept, if you will, new moon wishes. Plant your wishes as if they were a plant, like the farmers did on the new moon. Because there's certain circadian rhythms and certain, that we follow as farmers, or we used to. And so plant your ideas and you germinate them, is the expression, on the new moon. And by the full moons, certain full moons, you'll be able to reap your harvest. So every new moon, I sit down and I tailor my list of things that I want to the particular position of that new moon, what it means. If it's in Aries, it's more of a doer kind of thing. If it's in Pisces, it's more of an emotional kind of thing. So you just tailor your list. What do I want? And I have journals for years and years and years of new moon wishes. But it allows you, I call it meditation. It allows you to sit down and meditate on the things that you want to grow. And if you picture them and imagine them and savor them and feel them, and you're all there with all your senses, it's just a question of plucking them. There's a story in my book about those very things. I did new moon wishes. My daughter's tuition for her private school was always extremely, it was a huge amount, and I couldn't always come up with it. I had to pay monthly, and by paying monthly, I was paying way more in interest. So I thought for the last year, I wanted her to be in this private school one last time, but I wanted to pay it off in one go. And so I literally, I hate this word because people have used it a lot, manifested a job, a voiceover job, a contract that paid to the dime on the day it was due her tuition.
Wow.
So I've done this a few times, like that exact. And I've done it many times with other things that I've wanted. But I have to really envision where that desire is going. So does it serve every aspect of my life, right? I mean, why am I not singing? Because it won't serve my aspect of my life right now. It'll serve my soul. It'll serve people's soul, I hope. But there's nowhere to put it. I can't imagine where I would put it. But if somebody were to come up to me and say, I have an album project for you, and I go, whoa, and I can see it, I would do it in a heartbeat. You have to have a vision as to where you're going to put that in your life. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And you have to be very specific. So the more accurate you are, the more accurate your manifestation will be.
You need to go to the nitty-gritty of it. And
at the same time, you allow chance, you allow, what do they call it? Serendipity to arrive, and somebody shows up out of nowhere that has something special for you, and you feel like that's something you should run with. And maybe that's not even the thing that you want, but they know that person that knows that person, that you've met that person that now brings you what you know what I mean? Yeah. As long as you're taking action on something will happen.
That's true.
So I've always believed in that. So you get out of any situation or get into any situation by picturing exactly what it is you want. It's almost easy sometimes.
Speak for yourself. Yeah, like I know the power of it. I don't know if it's laziness or other things that stop me from doing it on a regular basis, but
yeah, regular basis is the key. And I've lapsed too. I've lapsed a lot. COVID had me not being able to see the future at all. Like when I looked, there was just a wall there. I don't know if you were the same.
yeah,
It was really hard to have a dream when you didn't know where the entire planet was going.
true.
You know, and you couldn't even interact with the simplest of people because you weren't going out,
That's right.
which was devastating in many ways for a lot of people.
That's
The loneliness, yeah.
definitely was a case. In terms of what you do or your career or any type of the born artist, any way or interpretation of that, what is about what you do that you would like people to understand better?
The worth of it.
Hmm.
The worth of it. I think we get caught up in judgment, generation to generation especially. I was talking with a gentleman recently who kept saying, you know, I just don't understand kids today. And I was like, wow, I've heard that for so many generations, right? I actually think kids today are pretty flippin' amazing. I think 20-year-olds today know way more than I ever will on this planet. So I don't discount what they bring to the table. But when it comes to their art, I don't understand it. I don't understand it most of the time. But I really appreciate a lot of it. So it just doesn't pay in a way that it should, I feel. The singers and the composers and the dancers and the live theater performers or the live musicians and all of that, the live stuff is dying. But it feeds us so much. If you think about, again, COVID, no live music, no theater, no singing anywhere, no music being made in front of your eyes to listen to, right?
No culture.
No culture. Yeah.
Because that's what,
Yeah.
like, to the food, to the music, to every single note, that's where the culture begins. Right?
And the worth of it is just not, you know, again, the world is, like, of course, this is, I mean, maybe it's by grand design. We are scrambling to pay our bills. So do you really have time to sit there for 2 hours and think about a storyline you want to write?
Maslow, pyramid of Maslow, right? That's,
Pyramid of Maslow?
Yeah, the needs, which are primary and which are secondary or tertiary.
Yeah.
All goes there, right? So.
Yeah. It's yeah, I mean, you take away the ability to muse and be amused in the very real sense of those words by handcuffing the people to food, water, shelter, you know. And that's what we are doing now, more and more. But again, it's a pendulum. I have faith that it will, before I die anyway, at least once, swing the other way. Maybe as we realize that we can't all have the mansions that we wanted and the huge careers that we thought and the pots of money that we thought we were going to, and we go back to community living. So I'm 57, considerably older than you, and I'm starting to think about my next 30 years. Where is that going to be? Who's going to be there with me? How do I sustain myself? What do I do for work when all my avenues are dying? Because they are. I will be taking over my father's property in Northumberland County and growing my own food and creating a community, a literal commune of people to bring health and wellness in many forms and art to my community. That is where I'm going. Because I will actually have very little choice too. But I want to surround myself with people that have these special skills to entertain and amuse and be amusing, because that's where you heal.
That's true.
Right? And as a community, much like they used to do 100 years ago with your little town, everybody knows everybody. And, she makes the jams, and she makes the jams, and he builds the barn, and she comes to teach the yoga to the 20 people that are paying what they can, and somebody's trading a half a side of their beef or whatever for your 97 eggs for that year.
Jar of honey and so on and so forth. Yeah.
Right? And that makes me happy. Because having been a driven person all my life, having been a very money-oriented person, which I am, I've had the real estate. I had 2 cars at one point, a 1961 Comet as a hobby car and my own car, which was a Mercedes. I mean, I had a lot. I've got lovely Tory Burch boots on today. I've got, who cares about any of this stuff? By the time I'm 67, 77, 80s, who cares? I just care, am I healthy? Am I surrounded by people who inspire, who are still optimistic about life? I don't care what generation they are. I don't care where they're from. That's where I want to go, because it's going to be my life that went from this to my life that went to this. Very small. Very cozy. And that's kind of nice. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I'll still be loud though.
I don't doubt that. I'm curious, what besides all your career choices and all the things that you do professionally brings you fun, brings you joy?
Fun. Ooh. I like voiceovers. Yeah. They're
besides
easy.
Career.
Oh, besides career. Oh, jeez. Well, I mean, I was going to say I like reading, but I write, so I read so I can write. I don't know. Do I do any fun? Yeah, my partner and I actually just got a puppy, believe it or not. We had a dog that we put down. She was 13. We put her down like 18 months ago. And it was a heartbreak. After my daughter left, we didn't have any animals well, we had the dog, and then the dog died, and we had no animals. And it was like there was no dust in the house. My pillows stayed in the same spot on the sofa. Like, I'm one of these people that my house is like, I love decorating. And he's a real estate agent, so I stage. So I'm all about decor, and I'm very particular. And everything was in its place, and I thought, oh, finally, I was so bored. We would walk in the door at the end.
2 weeks?
No. For like a couple years, we had no animals. And I was just bored. I was like, there's nothing here that's alive. You walk in the door at the end of the day, and there's nothing there that's happy to see you. There's no energy in the house. So my daughter and I were in this pet store, and I stupidly she bought 2 and I bought 2 Highland Lynx cats. These ridiculously purebred cats. And some stupid price. They're very pretty though. But they were hilarious. That was wonderful. And then they grew up, and they're very aloof. I've never had cats that were so aloof. They're not lap cats. They're not like, they're just like, you chill over there. I'm going to be over here. Like, they're very independent. Musing is all hell. But my partner is a dog person. And he knew not to bring it up. He always had Dalmatians. And so I started investigating Dalmatians. I don't particularly like Dalmatians. My mother, by the way, had a kennel. She raised Newfoundland dogs. She raised them.
Those are
for
beautiful dogs.
Well, they're actually. Did you really? You had Newfoundlands?
My
Stop it! Do you know how rare they are?
Oh yeah.
Where did you get them?
My parents had both. One was a foundling. They basically, someone called my father that kids are riding a Newfoundlander in the middle of the city. Because that's the size that he was.
Yes, of course.
It was 100 kilograms kind
Yeah.
of beast. And we took this one, and then when he was gone, then they got another one.
This is like, you know how rare that is? Like, of all the breeds I could have mentioned, wow.
And there are birds, there are smelly as hell. They leave that.
They leave hair
fat.
everywhere.
Hair is nothing. The fat, you touch them, and then the fattiness,
the oil. Yeah. Because they have an undercoat. Yeah,
that's right. Protects their skin from diving
the water.
in.
Yeah.
The frog feet. All
The
of
webbed
that.
feet. Oh my God. The blue skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mother was probably the top Newfoundland breeder in Canada for 30 odd years.
Wow.
So her dogs, I mean, it is conceivable that one of them might have been part of her lineage because she's everywhere. Like, she sold to Donald Sutherland, the actor, has a couple of her dogs. President of Mexico came in and got one of her dogs. People would fly in from Japan to pick up her dog. I mean, her dogs were bred for domed heads, tight flews so they didn't slobber a lot, and very sound hips so they didn't have a lot of hip dysplasia and disease. And she was just like, she was a master. But I grew up with so many bloody dogs that, by the time I was leaving home, the last thing I wanted was a goddamn dog, right? Fast forward to having a child.
Don't tell me you've got a Newfoundlander, though.
No way, man. Actually, Newfoundlands are only Shetland ponies in disguise. And no, the joke around our house was one day we were going to crack an egg and there would be a hair in it. Like, the hair was everywhere. So no, and he wanted a Dalmatian, and I'm like, you can't even pet that. That doesn't even have any fur. Like, it's just like, it's not a dog. And so I said, well, one of my favorite dogs is a border collie. I love them. I think they're super cute and really smart. And they have nice hair. So I literally went online last week and I typed in border collie Dalmatian, thinking I would get either border collie or Dalmatian. I got a cross that looks exactly like a Dalmatian, by the way, except smaller. And I surprised them and brought it home.
Wow. Was it a week ago, literally?
A week ago. And the thing is like 2.5 months old. And of course we haven't slept for a week, but that's pure joy. That is pure joy. Pure
love too.
Our dog, I got this dog because my daughter has very curly blonde hair and like massive amounts of it. And it catches your eye. When she was a child walking down the street, like, it was easy to pick her out. She was just so obvious. And I was terrified as a mother to this gorgeous blonde child that she would be a target for some people. Even just going to the corner store made me very nervous. So that's how we ended up with our dog, which was a German Shepherd Collie cross. Yep. And this dog was a rescue, and it was trained by my partner who knew what he was doing. He's fantastic with animals. And he hand signal trained her. By the end, she was under several commands. She knew she had a huge vocabulary. And she was so well behaved that wherever we would go, people would want to have her there. And that's the kind of, if you're going to have a dog, you should have it well trained, right?
Oh, yes, for sure.
So we had her for 13 years, and she kind of changed my mind about dogs, By the end, I mean, I was in love with this dog, And then when she died, it just broke my heart. So when I made the call and picked up this puppy, it was like, I just knew what I was in for too. I was like, oh man, this is going to be like a rough year. But that's pure joy. You know, we brought her into the gym yesterday.
Really?
Literally everybody went like all at the same time. They went, oh, like about 25 people. Oh, all at the same time. Swear to God. Everybody swarmed, you know. What is more happy than a puppy? It's the velvet ears and the, you know, optimism for days, right? And the pure love. You're right, the pure love.
Yeah.
So
I think there's not a better, like, I haven't felt such a pure love, like unconditional.
Yeah.
It's like just comes through.
I know.
It's nature. Their nature is love.
All
That's
connection.
Yeah.
It's all like if we could be more like dogs, honestly. Right?
True. Wow.
But with better food.
Okay,
yeah.
So we've got a new thing. That's gonna be your new hobby.
Well, it's gonna be his new thing.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm living with a dog again. Yeah.
On the flip side, though.
Yes.
What's your biggest problem?
I hate that word problem.
Challenge.
Do I have a problem? Challenge. To be comfortable as I get older. Yeah. I don't really worry anymore about, I mean, I'm still tending to it. Let's face it, I'm still doing my hair and my eyebrows, you know. But, and having grown up in that beauty thing for many, many decades, you know, having been a beautiful young woman, you would think it's hard to get old. And some days, yeah, it is. So I'm looking at this going, wow, this is like kind of, you know, like you got to kind of hold it up a little bit. But it's a welcome thing too. I had a great time being what I was. Now my focus is more like when I wake up in the morning, can I move well? Do I have a plan for my healthcare as I get older? Will our healthcare collapse in this country to the point where I won't be able to rely on it because I grew up thinking I could?
Yep.
And we're seeing signs of it now being strained and dividing into a two-tier system, which is already here. I'm already paying for it. I mean, my craniosacral, my acupuncture, and all that stuff isn't paid for by OHIP.
Yep.
It's thousands of dollars a year out of my pocket. I know it works. But I guess it's to be sure that I'm comfortable. Me and my partner are comfortable as we age, physically, obviously mentally too. So a lot of my focus is how we eat, how we exercise, how we, you know. Sadly, he's like he's a sugar junkie, and loves his cheese and stuff. And I'm like, would you stop bringing that in the house? So he, you know, we have this sort of push-pull, you know, he keeps me real and I keep him on point. It's kind of cool. But it is a concern. Where are we going? Yeah. Right? Where are we going to die is really how we talk about it now. Wow. Because we're now considering buying a property to either my father's property or one before that here in the city, and seeing, do we want to die in the city or do we want to die in the country? Do we rent one of those places? And you know, where do we live? But moreover, are we going to be okay? That's really it. I don't know what my next big adventure will be. I'm starting to shape it in my head, this health and wellness center, to some degree. But if I live in the city, it'll be something else. Yeah. I doubt it though, but maybe. I don't really fear change like that anymore. I have absolute faith that something is going to happen, that I'm going to be okay. And even if I'm not, I have to continue to believe the good stuff is going to come my way.
Have you ever been scared of challenge and change? Because it doesn't seem like it through your history. The stories that you shared with me.
Have I ever been scared of challenge? Yeah. I used to vomit before every singing performance. I was so nervous. And it was the thing that I most loved to do. So my whole being was exposed on that stage. I was very nervous. But I had a good friend, Gordie Johnson, from the old band Big Sugar, and then he has started another band called Wide Mouth Mason. He's a blues guy, and he said, we used to do these shows together, and I was really sick before one show, and he said, "Why are you so nervous?" He said, "They're already assuming that you're going to be amazing." I was like, oh, I don't have to prove myself. They're already on my side.
Yeah.
Changed quite a bit in how I performed after that.
Awesome.
But also after having a baby, my diaphragm quite literally expanded. And so my breathing capacity and my range became massive.
Wow.
So my voice literally blew up after I had a child. And I'd heard that happens to women. And you think, yeah, sure, and then it happens, and then you're on stage, and a year or so after she was born, I was on stage again, and man, the capacity to breathe was suddenly so much more. But I think it has a lot to do with the fact that you're also so much more of a human being. You're bringing much more to the stage, right?
Oh,
so
yes.
Challenges, I don't know. Maybe in the future. Maybe I'll be thinking about this interview when I'm 92 and on my deathbed going, damn, this is a big challenge. I got to let go of my earthly coil. I don't know.
I hope it's not going so heavily on you.
I don't know.
There are a lot of experiences, a lot of different stories, a lot of paths that you took through your journey. On those paths and the people that you met, you are right now talking also about building something that's going to be wellness center / community. Knowing that this will be around people or small group of people, what would you do for a member or a person that is part of it to help them belong or feel that they belong more?
Give them a task. Everybody needs a purpose. Yeah.
How would you go about it?
Depends on the person. I would be sending out invitations to people that I already know that are plugged into certain modalities, if you will, or it's already begun. The conversation's already begun about, and ironically, they're almost all women that are older than me. Where are they going? They have no partners. They have no real estate. They have no. Their children are grown, or they don't have any, or I think everybody needs a purpose. So whatever their skill is, I would probably base my ask on what their skill and yearning is in life. But they would definitely have to be real artists in their craft or experts at that point in their life. I'm looking for leaders. As I envision this place, I'm looking for leaders. I'm looking for people to keep it running on an integral level, or integrity rather, that is in alignment with the health stuff that I believe in, or the artistic pursuits that keep people vibrant, the old age care that we will have to be responsible for ourselves by the time I'm there. Because let's face it, I'm just at the tail end of the baby boomers, and there are way too many of us, and there's nowhere to put us. So, but yeah, I like that idea, back to small community where everybody had a job. My name, Coté, means side, literally. So we were probably the family that lived on the side of some prominent, whether it be the castle or the king or whatever, baker, and
right.
These names meant what your vocation was, and in a way, I guess that's what people will do, is whatever they represent. I have a girlfriend who can do 1,001 things, but if she were, I think she's going to be in this commune, as she calls it, She's an incredible nanny, but she's also an incredible artist. You give her a paintbrush and you have an incredible canvas. You give her a pen and she's an incredible writer. You know, I would like to let her pick whatever she wants to bring. Point being, nobody can be there under duress doing stuff that they hate.
Yeah.
Why? At that stage of the game?
Oh, yeah.
No. There's lots of communities that fascinate me, like these communities that have children. They have a daycare within an old age home. They have, there's islands where people eat only incredibly good food and they don't have any of that imported stuff, and
That's
their
right.
longevity is ridiculously long.
Seasonal, local.
Yeah, seasonal, local, yeah. But with people too, seasonal, local people, right?
The vision sounds phenomenal. I will be cheering for it.
I'm still cooking it, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
There's definitely... It's cooking in the right direction, if you can say so.
I hope so, yeah.
Are you ready for a touchdown of the conversation?
Sure.
I've got two ones that will be challenging.
Okay.
A sip of water, wine, a drink of choice.
Okay, go.
Ooh. What question would you like to be asked more often?
My joke is, what can I do for you today? God, I would love that if people were to ask me that more often. That's a very interesting question. I like it when people ask me for advice. I don't really think that it's interesting if they ask me about me. I mean, despite this podcast, despite my book, I write it out. I art it out, right? Yeah, I really like it when people ask me if I can shine some light on something for them. I've mentored people before in voiceovers and acting and all that. So I would like to, I would like people to feel more at ease with asking me things. If I can give it, I'll give it. You know?
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
We should have more people like yourself.
Really? Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Willing to give and willing to to share the knowledge and just help others. This was beautiful. Now.
Oh no.
I bet this will be easy. What have been the greatest day of your life?
The greatest day of my life. Oh. Well, the instant one is the birth of my daughter, but yeah, I think actually it wasn't the birth of my daughter, because that was amazing for me in many ways. It was I'll give you two answers to that, and they both have to do with my daughter. The first one is, somebody recently asked me about this whole trans stuff, what is a woman? Because they were talking about the feminine aspects of what we're seeing on social media, the eyelashes and the makeup and the heels and the this. And those are just feminine constructs as far as I'm concerned. Yep. What made me a woman was the day that my body opened, bled all over the floor with every liquid imaginable known to man, and produced a child out of it. It was ugly and messy and smelly and gross, and I have never been more connected to the earth. That's a woman. Right? So primal, so deep, beyond me. Every woman ever that has given birth was with me then, right? But that wasn't like the happiest moment of my life. I think the happiest moment of my life was when I realized that despite these challenges I've had, that I actually got lucky enough to have a daughter with what do you call this? She comes to conclusions in a very unusual way. She has very unusual thinking. I said to her there was going to be a consequence because she hadn't cleaned her room. And the consequence was that she had to pick a toy to give away to Value Village or Goodwill or whatever, because she hadn't done what she said she was going to. We had a contract and she didn't do it. So I said, pick a toy. Now she had toys like teddy bears that all the stuffing had come out of them, and the shiny new ones, and a train set, and Barbies with lots of body parts taken off and all that stuff. And so she went upstairs and she was up there for a really long time. She was going to pick a toy that she had to give away, and she was very sad. And she came back downstairs and she was holding this little pink stick. And she said, "Do Barbie legs count?" And at that moment I realized, A, she's way smarter than me. Thank God. And B, she was like 7 at the time, of an age where the mind begins to develop in a way that it will be as they're adults. And I thought, I won here. First of all, I won the lottery with her, with who she was, because it is a crapshoot. You never know who you're going to birth. Then I realized, I guess the stuff that I've been pouring in there and growing was actually okay. Because you worry, right? Like, I don't want to do what it was in the last generation. I want to break that cycle. And I succeeded. I won. That day I realized I won. I got what it is I had really hoped for. And she's still smart like that. Like, she would have made a great lawyer. You know, she's just got the most incredible brain. Arguing with her is like arguing with air. Like, you just can't get a purchase on anything, right? Yeah. So I'm very lucky. Yeah.
Through this conversation, I realized that you definitely have the whole army of guardian angels. And yeah, like, the situations that you went through definitely were challenging, and you went through a lot, like, no doubt about it. Like, the traumas, the abuse, and then dealing with that, and then relationships, all of that. It's
that's
whole yes, that's the best conclusion of it. That's life. But I totally and fully admire your journey and the kindness that you are coming with, and you resonate.
Oh, sweet.
Thank you for being here. It was phenomenal. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
Thank
too.
You. And it's a wrap. We dare you. If you are bold enough, hit subscribe, repost the rebellion, and don't miss out on next week's episode. It's going to be bloody brilliant. See you on the next one.